Amazon just quietly announced it's building its own AI chips. And here's what's wild. They're doing something that's supposed to be impossible for most companies. While Nvidia's spending tens of billions a year on AI chip research, Amazon is saying we'll design our own. This isn't a small move. It's Amazon betting that controlling the entire stack, from the chip hardware all the way up to your Echo device, is worth the enormous investment and risk. Most companies buy chips off the shelf. Intel makes CPUs, Nvidia makes GPUs, Qualcomm makes phone processors. You pick the best one and build your product around it. But Amazon's going a different direction. They're taking responsibility for designing the silicon itself. The stakes are massive. We are talking billions of dollars. We are talking years of engineering. And we are talking about competing with companies that have been perfecting chip design for decades. But here's what Amazon sees. This move could reshape the entire competitive landscape. Because if they pull it off, they won't just be selling Echo devices anymore. They'll be selling devices powered by silicon, optimized specifically for what their customers need. No compromises, no waiting for Nvidia to release the next generation. Total control. And that's a position that could make Amazon even more dominant in the AI era. Here's where it gets interesting. The strategy behind this move reveals something fundamental about how the tech industry is reshaping itself right now. To understand why Amazon's making this move, you need to see the bigger picture of what's happening in tech right now. Amazon doesn't just sell Echo speakers. It's built an entire ecosystem: Fire tablets, Fire TV sticks, Echo displays, Ring cameras. Every single one of those devices currently uses off-the-shelf processors. Amazon buys them from whoever makes them best at that moment. But here's the problem with that approach. You're always at someone else's mercy. Nvidia makes the best AI chips right now. That's giving Nvidia enormous power. When Nvidia releases a new generation, everyone else has to wait. When Nvidia raises prices, everyone else pays more. And when Nvidia decides to focus elsewhere, companies like Amazon get left with whatever remains. Apple figured this out years ago. They designed their own chips, the A series for iPhones, the M series for MacBooks. That gives Apple incredible advantages. Their hardware can be incredibly thin and efficient because the chip is designed specifically for their devices. Google's doing it too with the Tensor chip for Pixels. So Amazon looks at Apple and Google and realizes we need complete vertical integration. We need to control our own destiny. We need AI chips designed specifically for Echo and Fire TV, optimized for how people actually use those devices. Not optimized for data centers, not optimized for gaming laptops, optimized for our customers. That's when you understand this move isn't really about beating Nvidia. It's about Amazon refusing to let anyone else control its future. So what does it actually mean to design an AI chip? Most people think it's just code, right? You write some software and you're done. But that's not how chips work. A chip is a physical object made from silicon. You're literally reshaping the material itself at a microscopic scale. Think of it like this. If you want to build a fast car, you need to understand engines. You need to know about combustion, torque, horsepower, but chip design is even more complex. Working at a scale of just nanometers, that's billions of times smaller than a grain of sand. At that scale, physics behaves differently. Electrons behave unexpectedly. Heat becomes your enemy. Power consumption becomes critical. Amazon needs to hire some of the world's best chip engineers. Companies like Nvidia, Intel, and TSMC, the factory in Taiwan that actually manufactures the chips, have been doing this for decades. Their engineers are legendary. Getting them to work at Amazon is expensive, but it's just the beginning. Amazon then needs to design the actual chip architecture. How many cores? What kind of memory? How much power will it consume? Then they need to test prototypes. Then they need to work with TSMC to manufacture them at scale. The entire process takes years, and it costs hundreds of millions of dollars. But here's what makes it worth it for Amazon once you have your own chip. You own the entire supply chain. Let's talk about where these Amazon-designed chips will actually show up. The announcement mentioned Echo, Fire TV, and future devices. That's pretty vague, right? But think about what that really means. Echo is the smart speaker that's in millions of homes. Right now, Amazon's putting standard processors in there, chips from companies like Qualcomm or MediaTek. The new Amazon chip could make Echo smarter, faster, more responsive. Fire TV is the streaming stick you plug into your TV. It's not as powerful as an Apple TV, partly because Amazon doesn't control the silicon. With their own chip, that changes. They could create a Fire TV device that processes AI locally, understanding what you're watching, learning your preferences, offering personalized recommendations without sending everything to the cloud. Then there's the phrase future devices. That's where it gets interesting. Amazon could be planning wearables, smart glasses with built-in AI, devices that understand voice and context in real time. They could be planning robots, warehouse robots, home robots, delivery robots. They could be planning anything that requires AI processing at the edge. This is the genius of vertical integration. Once you design your own chip, you're not limited by what chip makers decide to build. You can build devices that competitors can't match because your hardware and software are designed together from the ground up as one unified system. Amazon's move is bold, but they're not the first to do this. Apple's been designing their own chips since 2014 with the A8 chip for iPhones. That strategy completely transformed Apple's iPhone division. The chips are faster, more efficient, and deeply integrated with iOS. Apple now spends less on components and has massive differentiation. Google's getting in on it too. They've got Tensor chips for Pixel phones and TPU chips for cloud servers. Samsung's designing their own chips. Intel's in this game. Even Microsoft's working on custom processors for AI workloads. But here's what makes Amazon different. They are doing this specifically for consumer IoT devices. Smart speakers, streaming devices, connected home products. That's a much bigger market than most people realize. There are hundreds of millions of Alexa devices in the world. If Amazon can shave even a few dollars off the cost per unit with a custom chip, that's billions of dollars in savings across their entire fleet. Apple focused on premium products. Google's focusing on smartphones and cloud computing. Amazon's going after the volume play. They're saying we want to put our chips in billions of smart home devices worldwide. That's actually a more ambitious goal than what Apple or Google are doing. And here's the twist. Amazon's vertical integration could eventually give them an advantage that even Apple doesn't have. Imagine Amazon controlling the chip, the software, and the cloud backend for billions of devices. This move has massive implications for Nvidia. Nvidia's been the undisputed king of AI chips. They've got about 90% market share in AI accelerators. Every data center, every AI company, they all use Nvidia chips. But consumer devices are different. If Amazon pulls this off, they're not buying Nvidia chips for Echo anymore. They're not buying them for Fire TV. That's market share Nvidia will never get back. Now, Nvidia's not panicking. Data centers are where the real money is. Cloud computing companies like AWS, Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud, they're all buying Nvidia chips in massive quantities. That's where Nvidia's fortress is. But consumer AI is the future. As devices get smarter, as more processing happens locally instead of in the cloud, companies that control their own silicon will have a huge advantage. This is also a warning sign to Qualcomm and MediaTek, the chip makers that Amazon's currently using. If Amazon stops buying from them, that's a significant chunk of revenue gone. It also shows other tech companies what's possible. Samsung could double down on chip design. Microsoft could accelerate its custom chip program. Meta could start designing chips specifically for VR and metaverse applications. The entire semiconductor industry is about to splinter. Instead of everyone buying from Nvidia, Intel, and ARM, we are entering an era where the biggest tech companies build their own silicon. That's a seismic change in how the industry operates. Here's the really clever part of Amazon's strategy. They're not trying to be Nvidia. Nvidia spends tens of billions on research because they're trying to build chips that work for everything: data centers, gaming, AI research, professional visualization. That's incredibly complex. Amazon doesn't need that. They only need chips optimized for Echo and Fire TV. That's a much narrower problem to solve. It's like the difference between building a Swiss Army knife and building a really excellent single knife. The single knife can be better at its job. Amazon's chips can be laser-focused on specific tasks: local speech recognition, video streaming, AI inference. They don't need maximum performance. They need efficient performance. They need low power consumption so devices don't generate heat. They need chips that can run for years without battery replacement in some cases. That's actually easier than what Nvidia's doing. Amazon can also learn from others. They can look at Apple's architecture, understand what works, adapt it for their own use case. They can hire away talented engineers from companies that are slowing down their chip programs. And here's the dark horse advantage. Amazon owns AWS, the world's largest cloud provider. They can use AWS to test chip designs. They can gather data on how billions of devices behave. They can use that data to iterate and improve their designs faster than anyone else could. That's a massive informational advantage that nobody else has. So here's what this Amazon move means for you. In the short term, Echo and Fire TV devices are probably going to get smarter and cheaper. Amazon-designed chips could save them money, which they might pass along to you in lower prices. The devices might be more responsive because the AI processing is optimized specifically for how you use them. You might get better local speech recognition, better video processing, better everything. But the bigger picture is more interesting. This is a signal that we are entering a new era of computing, the age where a single company controls the full stack, hardware, software, services, is becoming the standard. Apple proved it works. Now Amazon's proving it works at a massive scale across billions of devices. Google's proving it. Microsoft's proving it. Soon, almost every major tech company will have custom silicon. That's going to fundamentally change what's possible. Devices will get smarter because they are purpose-built. AI will run faster and more efficiently. Privacy might improve because more processing happens locally instead of in the cloud. But it also means less choice for consumers in the long run. These companies control the hardware, the software, and the services. If you want to use Echo, you're using Amazon's chip. There's no alternative. So watch how Amazon's chip strategy unfolds over the next few years. It's going to reshape the entire tech industry. And the companies that master vertical integration will dominate the next decade of computing.